What is going on, people? Welcome back to another March Madness bracket video. It is officially the best time of the year, and I've got a great one for you. It's been 10 years since my perfect Final Four in 2015 with Wisconsin over undefeated Kentucky in the Final Four. So that's why I've got this shirt on, just to remember that. And we're hoping to recreate some of that magic this year. I don't claim to be an expert, but having two perfect Final Fours within the last 10 years, I feel like that puts me in a good position to make these videos, and hopefully you gain something of value through the end of it. Let's jump right into it. I've got all my picks ready. I've got them carefully researched, thought out, lost some sleep over some of these picks, but at the end of the day, some of the ones I had to just go with it. So here we are. Let's get into it. And by the way, if you're not using CBS as your bracket creator, what are you doing? CBS is iconic. They have the anthem for college basketball, for the NCAA tournament. You got to go with CBS. It's the best format, it's the best looking, and recommend it the most. Let's get into it. The South region, we don't take 16 seeds. This game was chaotic and fun. I'm glad that Alabama moved on, but yeah, we're sticking with Auburn. A lot of people are hating on Auburn just because they've come into the tournament a little bit cold, losing a few games in March, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. I like them to keep going. Louisville, Creighton. Good thing about Louisville is they're going to be playing in Kentucky for this game, specifically Rupp Arena. So they're going to have the home fans behind them. And a lot of people think that Louisville should be higher seeded, which I agree with that. They ended up ranked in the top 10 at the end of the season. So it is a shock there at an 8 seed. But honestly, I give the edge to Creighton. Um, and why? Because I think Creighton's going to win the game on the defensive glass. I think they're going to shoot better than Louisville, and I like them to advance. Taking Louisville, Michigan, UC San Diego, another great matchup. The analytics are really pointing towards UC San Diego. The big deciding factor for making this pick was turnovers. Michigan is a team that just turns the ball over, and UC San Diego is a team that does not. They handle the ball well. I think it's going to come down to those possessions, and I like UC San Diego to advance. Yale, Texas A&M. This was one of those matchups where definitely lost some sleep over this. Yale, they're going to study their opponent very well. They're going to know everything about you. Texas A&M coming out they're a good field goal shooting team, top 15 in 3-point shooting, top 25 in defensive. Excuse me, they're actually not a great field goal shooting team, is what I was trying to say. And Yale is quite opposite. Yale is a great shooting team, but I got to give the edge to Texas A&M. I think Yale could definitely win this matchup, but I'm going to go with Texas A&M. Down here, Ole Miss and San Diego State slash UNC. I think UNC is by far better than what people are saying. People say they don't belong in this tournament. I think that should fire them up even more. I like UNC to win the first four and win this matchup against Ole Miss, an Ole Miss team that definitely didn't impress me that much this year. They don't do well on the glass, they don't rebound well, and they foul a lot. They don't make a lot of shots. Yeah, UNC is going to win this one. They want it more. People are counting them out. Take UNC in this matchup. Lipscomb, Iowa State without Keyshawn Gilbert, I think that is a tough loss. But if you watched the Big 12 tournament, this team can score without Keyshawn Gilbert. And I think it's definitely a loss defensively without Keyshawn Gilbert. But I think it's enough to beat Lipscomb. Would I be surprised if Lipscomb wins this game? Definitely not. I think Lipscomb is one of the best 14 seeds. I think they're a great free throw shooting team, good defensive team on the rebounds, and they can shoot well as well. If it goes towards Lipscomb, yeah, I welcome that. But I'm going to take Iowa State in this matchup here. Now, here we have a really good storyline. Rick Pitino's son's coaching New Mexico against Shaka Smart. I think New Mexico is very underrated, and I think Marquette is the opposite. I think Marquette's pretty overrated. They don't rebound well, they really don't shoot well. And then when you look at the resume of New Mexico, it's not fantastic, but one thing I like is they are top 20 in rebounding. They're a fast team. They're gonna pick up the pace on Marquette, and I think they're gonna go on runs and win this game. Michigan State and Bryant. So we really don't pick 15 seeds to upset 2 seeds, but if it's going to be a team that does it, I think Bryant could. But I think Michigan State is just going to beat them defensively, and I think they're going to shut them down, even though Bryant is a pretty good shooting team. So we're taking Michigan State here. And then back up to the top here. This could be a matchup nightmare for Auburn, and Creighton is known to take down top opponents. They took down preseason #1 Kansas. They're the first team to do that this year. Started the downward spiral of Kansas. But Auburn, I think that defense and that top 10 scoring offense is going to be too much for Creighton, and I like them to advance here. UC San Diego and Texas A&M. I could definitely see UC San Diego matching up with Auburn, and I think the only reason I give the edge to A&M here is A&M's defensive play. I think they can shut down a good offense like UC San Diego, and I think the shots are going to come as well. And I know they want to play Auburn because they beat Auburn in the regular season, and so they know that's where they need to be. So I'm taking Texas A&M. Now down here, UNC Iowa State. I think UNC has a very good chance of beating a injured Iowa State team, but I really liked what I saw from Iowa State. Um, I'm going to take him in this matchup, but you could definitely pick UNC as well. I think analytically they're a great team, just with some bad luck. And not only that, they've got this chip on their shoulder and they are hungry and they want to win. They want to get far. They want to prove people wrong, prove all the doubters wrong. But I think Iowa State is just too close of a team right now, even with injuries. That team plays well together, and I like Iowa State to get to the second weekend. In the last matchup, I've got a really good upset here. I've got the fast-paced New Mexico, coached by Rick Pitino's son, to upset Tom Izzo's Michigan State Spartans, who had a good opportunity to make it to the Final Four. I think this fast-paced team is going to surprise a lot of people. I like New Mexico a lot, and I'm picking them here. Back up here, we got Auburn, Texas A&M, the rematch we've all been waiting for. I got to give the edge to Auburn. Texas A&M beat them in the regular season. Auburn wants the revenge. They're going to get it. Auburn to the next round. Down here, Iowa State, New Mexico. This is where I think the injuries really start to pick up against Iowa State, where they're playing a fast-paced team like New Mexico, and they just aren't defensively there without Keyshawn Gilbert. You got good guys on Iowa State. They could definitely make it to this Elite Eight matchup, but I'm going to go with New Mexico to play Auburn. We're going to do the final four picks last, so we're going to go into the West region. All right, to the West region we go. Florida, Norfolk State. Like always, we're taking the 1 seed Florida, who I was just a year early on this pick. I was very high on Florida last year. They finally come together and have done what I thought they would do last year. Picking them there. UConn, Oklahoma. A lot of people are on UConn just because they've won the last 2 national championships. That team is not really the same of those 2 years. I know that they're a good shooting team. They're #1 in blocks in the country, but they cannot defend. And I've seen them lose too many games this year, especially games in Connecticut. I think Oklahoma has that edge, honestly. Looking at Jeremiah Fear, I think this team, they've got some top 100 NBA picks on this team. I think Oklahoma can upset UConn, and Dan Hurley himself has said this isn't the team. So I like Oklahoma there. Memphis, Colorado State. Memphis is a great team. PJ Haggerty, one of the best players in the country, is on this team. And a lot of people are counting them out. A lot of people have Colorado State advancing because the analytics say to do it. They're higher on Ken Palm. They're higher on the net than Memphis. Even Vegas has Memphis as an underdog. But sometimes when the analytics, when it's 4th down, the analytics say to go for it and you don't get it. And I think that's what happens here with Colorado State. I'm taking Memphis to advance. I think this team has a lot of talent, and they've had some good wins this year, especially in the Maui Invitational early this year. Yeah, I'm taking them. Maryland, Grand Canyon, I was pretty high on Grand Canyon last year. I don't think this team has the magic that it had last year. Last year, they were so close to upsetting Alabama in the second round. They were toe to toe until the second half. Alabama pulled away. So I think Grand Canyon could have had the run that I thought they would last year. This year, I'm not so sure. Maryland is good offensively and defensively, and they shoot the ball well and guard it. I'm going to take Maryland here. I don't know if I'd get them past the second round, but I'm going to have them beating Grand Canyon here. We got Missouri and Drake, another trendy pick. Everybody wants to pick Drake. They got Bennett Sturts. They've got these D2 guys. The story is really good here. And the story's kind of been trending down. I think they've only won 1 or 2 games in March so far. But really, I think Drake is not as good as people are saying. I don't think they've played the strongest schedule. They almost lost in Kansas City to K-State on a neutral floor. I think Missouri has an edge. This game's going to be in Wichita. Missouri fans are going to travel well from Columbia. Give me Missouri to beat Drake here. All right, next up, we've got Texas Tech versus UNCW. I watched UNCW play in Allen Fieldhouse against Kansas, and they kept it close at half, but in the second half, Kansas really pulled away. I knew right away, talking with my friends there, that UNCW was a tournament team, but I just don't think they have enough to beat these quad one teams. So give me Texas Tech to advance over UNCW. Great season for UNCW. Texas Tech is due for a deep run. Kansas versus Arkansas, great matchup, can go either way. Two teams that are inconsistent. I'm going to give the edge to Kansas because I think their defense steps up big time here. Defends off the Hogs, who, if you watch the conference tournament, there was a point where they went 13 minutes without a shot. You pair that up with Kansas's good defense, it's going to be over for the Hogs. So give me Kansas. St. John's, Omaha. Yeah, we don't take 15 seeds, though we did our research on that. I thought Omaha was the worst 15 seed. St. John's has been great. Give me St. John's. Back up here, we got Florida, Oklahoma. Could be trouble for Florida, but Florida has been rock solid. They're one of the best fast break teams. They've got one of the best scoring offenses. I think they advance here pretty easy. Memphis, Maryland. Really like the Terps. I think PJ Haggerty in Memphis, they've got that chip on their shoulder. Everyone's counting them out. I like what I see with Memphis. I really do. And I'm going to take them. I'm going to take them to play Florida here. All right, Missouri and Texas Tech. Another good one here. Missouri, if they play to their ceiling, they will win this game. But Texas Tech, I think they just take care of the ball well, shoot good shots, and beat Missouri down the stretch. Give me Texas Tech. Kansas, St. John's. A lot of people are going to hate on this pick, but I've got St. John's getting bounced. St. John's, one of the best teams at defending, but if you've seen them guard the 3-point line, it's not there. And I think guys like Zeke Mayo, Rylan Griffin, AJ Stewart, they're gonna find ways to score the three against St. John's, and St. John's is not a good 3-point shooting team. I think they get exposed here. I think Kansas' offense just beat St. John's. They get to the second weekend and match up with Texas Tech. Florida and Memphis. I got Florida powering through Memphis, although I think Memphis is going to give them a good show. I like Florida here. Texas Tech and Kansas. So these teams matched up, and Texas Tech beat them in Allen Fieldhouse. Looking at some of the metrics here, Texas Tech, good 3-point shooting team. I think they could expose Kansas. These injuries aren't as important for Kansas as these guys don't start. This could be the problem for Kansas, is the free throw line. It's why they lost against Houston. Tech beat them in Allen Fieldhouse. That was just a depressing game. But I think Kansas finds their stride. I think they get the revenge on Texas Tech. I'm going to go against what most people are picking for the sake of the bracket. So I'm picking Kansas. And I just shoot for a perfect Final Four, and I don't have Kansas in there. We're making that pick just to be different. And also, I am a Kansas fan. I went to the University of Kansas. So we're taking them over Texas Tech in the revenge game to play Florida in the Elite Eight. We're going to go up top to Duke and whoever they play in the first four. Either way, Duke, what a great season for Duke. They're number one on Ken Palm. They're one of the best shooting teams in the league. Even without Cooper Flag, they showed they can still play. Of course, they're going to the second round. Baylor, Mississippi State, 8, 9 seeds, always hard ones to pick. I'm going to give the edge to Baylor. In the Big 12 tournament, they were one basket away from beating Texas Tech. Came down to the very last seconds. I like Baylor, Edgecombe, great freshman, going to go to the NBA. They've even got Jeremy Roach, so we've got a good storyline developing here. In this East region, Oregon and Liberty. Liberty, one of the greatest shooting teams in the country. They're very underrated, but you got to think, who are they playing against? And I think of the college football season that this school had, where they were undefeated or a couple years ago, and yeah, once they played real opponents, it showed. And Oregon is one of the most consistent teams in March Madness. They show up and they get wins. I love Oregon. I'm going to take them to advance here. Akron, Arizona. This is one where I think there's a high chance of an upset, but honestly, Arizona is a team that will beat you inside. They will get to the free throw line and they will make those free throws. And I think they can just power their way through Akron. But yeah, if Akron shoots like they're statistically showing, I think maybe it could be trouble for Arizona, but I'm taking Arizona. BYU, VCU. This is one of the ones where I really lost sleep over because it's so hard to pick one of these two teams. Really like each of them. The one thing I will say about BYU is they're pretty similar to a lot of teams in this region, especially Alabama, where they've got really good offense, not so much on the defensive end. I think VCU could definitely beat them, but I'm taking offense over defense in this matchup specifically. I really like VCU. If I have them winning here, I would have them advancing to the second weekend, but I got to take BYU here. Montana, Wisconsin. Wisconsin got upset last year. It's absolutely not happening this year on Wisconsin. Montana, the Grizzlies, they've been in March before. They know what it's like to be here, but Wisconsin's definitely winning this matchup. St. Mary's, Vanderbilt. St. Mary's is one of the best defensive teams in the country, and they're also a great rebounding team. And Vanderbilt has played in the SEC against a lot of very tough schools, but I think they're probably the most vulnerable team from the SEC that's coming in the tournament. And I think St. Mary's exposes them on the defensive end and wins this game. Alabama, Robert Morris, another one of those where we don't really take these. If it happens, like, great for Robert Morris, that'd be awesome. But we're taking Alabama here. Number one offense, number one rebounding team. This team has a great formula. We're going back up to the top here. Duke, Baylor. Duke, obviously the best team in the country. It's hard to debate against that. We're thinking here with a perfectly healthy Cooper Flag. And with a perfectly healthy Cooper Flag, I'm taking Duke to advance over Baylor. Even though Hall of Fame coach Scott Drew, Baylor's had some good wins this year. I just don't think it's the strongest Baylor team, even with guys like Edgecombe and Jeremy Roach, as possible. But I'm taking Duke here. Oregon, Arizona, tough one here. I really like what I see from Arizona, just the way they get to the free throw line and make shots. I'm taking Arizona here. BYU, Wisconsin. I know I got my Wisconsin shirt on. The one thing about Wisconsin that kind of concerns me is they don't get a lot of points from the bench. I think you're going to need that against BYU. And I'm not going to be surprised if BYU/VCU, the winner of this matchup, beats Wisconsin. But for the sake of the pick and the shirt, we're taking Wisconsin to beat BYU. All right, St. Mary's, Alabama. I'm rocking in this region with offensive scoring, and I'm taking Alabama to match up with Wisconsin. All right, in the Elite Eights, we've got Duke versus Arizona. Duke fans, you can come at me if I get this pick wrong, but Arizona is going to grind out a win, and they're going to beat Duke, and Caleb Love is going to be that guy again. I'm taking Arizona. Caleb Love is a Duke killer. He's going to beat them in the Sweet 16 and advance to the Elite Eight. Alabama, Wisconsin. I think this is where John Tanji and Wisconsin's run comes to a sad end when they match up with the powerhouse of the SEC, Alabama. Even though Alabama is going to give up a ton of points, I don't think Wisconsin has the tempo. I don't think they have the scoring to keep up with uh, Alabama. So give me Alabama. All right, we're going to go to the final region here and give our final thoughts. All right, into the Midwest region we go. This is where I really shook things up. Houston, SIUE. I think SIUE is the best 16 seed in the tournament, but what does that matter when you play in a team like Houston? Give me Houston. Gonzaga, Georgia. Georgia scares me a little bit. They're a great defensive team, especially from the 3-point line. And I think their kryptonite here is going to be the turnovers. And when you play a team like Gonzaga, a high offensive team, I think Gonzaga is going to make them pay. Give me Gonzaga here. Clemson, McNeese State. Gosh, what a good story with McNeese State. This is probably one of my favorite matchups here, Clemson, McNeese State. Clemson made me eat my words last year. I had them bounced in the first round, and I just can't do it this year, although I love McNeese State, and I am rooting for them. Go McNeese, but I'm taking Clemson. Purdue, High Point. This is another one where the story is really good. You look at from the student announcers to the guy on the court that's just fired up after scoring a huge bucket to win the conference tournament. This team is definitely a team that could make noise in March, especially the Purdue team that people think is struggling, maybe not good as in the past. But I think High Point has reached their high point, and I'm taking Purdue. Illinois, Texas, Xavier. If Texas wins, I would lean towards Texas, but I am going to take Illinois. And Illinois has frustrated me a lot this year. But the one thing I like about them is they're very good at rebounding. And I think that can be enough to beat a team like Texas or Xavier. Troy and Kentucky. If Kentucky loses in the first round again and hurts my bracket, I'm going to be upset. But they've got Mark Pope as coach. This is his first season. If he does what John Calipari did with Kentucky, then I don't know what to say. Troy is actually probably one of the best 14 seeds. Yeah, great offensive rebounding team, but they turn the ball over so much. Kentucky's going to make them pay. Give me Kentucky. UCLA and Utah State. Utah State is a March Madness legend. They're just known for getting in the tournament as a lower seed and winning games. The best thing I like about them is they play really well as a team, and they don't turn the ball over, and they shoot the ball well. I think it's too much for UCLA. Give me Utah State. Tennessee, Wofford, another March Madness legend, but this has got to be Tennessee's best year I can remember. They honestly could be a 1 seed. They are the best at defending the 3-point line. They don't give up a lot of points. Yeah, of course, Tennessee over Wofford. All right, this is where it gets wild. I think the winner of this game right here is going to go to the national championship. Houston is probably my favorite team from the Big 12. They went undefeated on the road. Just such an impressive resume. I think they could get past Gonzaga, but I like being different, and I'm taking Gonzaga to be a matchup nightmare for Houston and win this game. And then Clemson, Purdue. I think Purdue's actually pretty underrated from what people are saying. I know Purdue has a history of getting bounced early, and it's definitely possible. But for being top 15 in shooting, I think this team has a lot more of a run in them than people think. And Clemson could definitely win this game. I think analytically you would pick them. But I like Purdue in this matchup. So give me Purdue. I just think they're going to shoot lights out against Clemson. I think it's be too much. Illinois, Kentucky. Illinois was a team that really frustrated me. I think they could out rebound Kentucky, but I think Kentucky's offense is going to be too much for Illinois. Utah State, Tennessee, rocking with the Tennessee Volunteers. I think they honestly have a shot to get to the Final Four, and I'm definitely going to have them advance past the first weekend. So here we've got a matchup of last year, Gonzaga and Purdue. I think Purdue definitely could beat Gonzaga here if this were to happen, but I am rocking with Gonzaga to knock off Purdue, who's maybe not had the best year as in the past. So, yeah, give me Gonzaga, a team that is overlooked. We got guys like Khalif Battle. You've got Graham Ike. This team's really good, and maybe the expectation's not as high this year, and so maybe that's when they start to perform. Kentucky, Tennessee, third time's the charm. Kentucky's matched up with Tennessee twice this year, and they beat them both times. A team that, like Tennessee, who's one of the best defensive teams in the country, Kentucky finds a way to do it for the third time. We've got our final four picks here, so let's go back to the top region. Auburn, New Mexico. I think Auburn, people have been doubting them a lot. I think their path to the Final Four worked out really well, even with a fast paced New Mexico team. Give me Auburn to make the Final Four. Florida, Kansas. I think this is where Kansas kind of gets exposed to a high powered offense like Florida, a fast break team who's Kansas used to be a fast break team. They're not really that kind of team anymore. Hunter Dickinson's not the most athletic, and I think due to a fast break team like Florida, they get past Kansas. Um, Arizona, Alabama. Love to take Alabama to another Final Four, but Arizona, just that team that gets to the line, makes their shots. They got Caleb Love. I really like this team. They've got great coaching. I think they can definitely beat Alabama and get to the Final Four. You've got Gonzaga and Kentucky. I think Gonzaga is just going to overperform this year. I think Gonzaga gets past Kentucky and gets out of the Midwest region to the Final Four. So that's what it's looking like this year. We've got Auburn and Florida, a great rematch. Florida went into Auburn, blew out Auburn, and I think Florida continues that, and I think they get to the national championship game. Arizona, Gonzaga, this is going to be a very highly watched game if it happens, and I am going to take Gonzaga to beat Arizona. A team from the Big 12 I've been really high on this year. I think they start off the season not so well, and then they've really turned it up. And I think if I didn't make this pick, I definitely would choose Arizona here. But I got Florida versus Gonzaga, and the combined points, I think this game is going to be a great offensive showdown. I'm going to do 172 points, and I'm going to take the Florida Gators to win the national championship over Gonzaga. 1 seed over the 8 seed. That's a wrap. That's a video, and that's March.